This video is a protest against the social entropy of America from its Christian, Judeo-Christian heritage. Of course, the sons of God preceded the Jews, as did Abraham precede Israel. And it was an obligation of Israel to teach the Gentiles God's ways. It isn't really a protest, but an affirmation of basic foundational values. We can be assured these values ought to be endorsed by the true popes. I say that as a Protestant, and the Queen. So, inalienable rights implies inalienable morality. That is, some things are just outright true. The US Constitution was written when homosexuality was illegal. Preserving marriage is therefore not unconstitutional. There can be no legal promotion of homosexuality. Aspirational societies are based on aspirational values. And the goal is one man, one woman, once. I put X, Y and XX in brackets because men and women aren't opposites, but share a common basis. It's only sensible when people come together to take on the responsibility of raising children that they enter into an agreement that promotes stability. So marriage is not unnatural. Every child ever born has a natural father and a natural mother. I've put structural in brackets because as a Christian I believe that Jesus Christ was the Son of God in heaven. So all things aside, this isn't just a religious, a Christian. All things aside, what is nature or creator's choice? X, Y, X, X. Yep, children. X, 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 X. No children. X, Y, X, Y. No children. So it's only artificially that children are raised by homosexuals. Meanwhile, in the meantime, we should think of all the marriages not recognised. For instance, more natural polygamy, incest, group marriage. These people could call marriage a commune, where all things people enter, come and go, and at will. But marriage is not a bus, and when we value things as important, we generally add terms. And if one extends a term so far, it becomes meaningless. So the extension of marriage is a sign of a lack of value for marriage, and a lot of gay marriage proponents don't value marriage. We don't want to make partially stolen generation families. All these things like divorce are destructive to society. Stolen generation is probably an Australian issue, where Aboriginal children were forcibly removed from their families. And of course we remember, it's like bastards. I've put freaks of science because I don't know where science is going to go, or is at the moment, but there will come a point at which people cease to be. It is not against the law to recognise something as superior and more complete. Even today, people discriminate on clothes, money, education, all sorts of things. But when it comes to something really important like marriage, people want to destroy marriage. It's not marriage equality, it's marriage destruction. So we don't want to force an equality on things not equal. Ingredients aren't the same as products, and some things simply miss ingredients. Homosexuals therefore don't need to register. It's instead of adopting, they can sponsor proper heterosexual families if they truly had the children's interests at heart. Now, there's all sorts of problems, situations that may or may not arise, and society can always tolerate a certain level of error and repair it, provided there is sufficient surrounding structure. But if we deliberately destroy what's right, then that destruction will be too much. So we've got to keep a positive eye and keep our eyes on what is the goal, what is right. Don't yoke your neighbour with sin. This is probably more aimed at Christians. Homosexuality is not accepted in Christian religion or Judaism. And they are false churches, simple as that. And I won't go any further. In terms of the teaching, we don't want to undermine the Creator's covenant. We're not out to destroy the Creator. If Christ is the head of the house, and Paul uses the term without natural affection. And in this he's asserting a structural basis, but he's not destroying the natural basis of elements that exist. So people use all sorts of arguments in relation to nature in regards to what animals do in creation, but there is also rape, pedophilia, and all sorts of things. And we have to bear in mind that we're not here to reflect the curse in creation, but to be in the image of, in likeness of God, and human, and that is to be human and rule over creation. The Bible isn't actually homophobic, and does accept that there's affection, maybe not affection, but interaction and between sexes. So it's not in that terms homophobic, and perhaps that probably leads some to confusion. It's just a matter of putting things in their proper context. And this statement is quite consistent with Old Testament teaching and the characters of the Jewish race. All up, the best prevention is to make sure the software matches the hardware. And I've got a picture of the Bible there, which I prefer to call Scripture. And this goes, is homosexual marriage harmful? Is it harmful to artificially promote homosexual marriage as being equal with heterosexual marriage in an environment where it's not acceptable to criticize or offend homosexuals, where a social worker overzealous might one day view it as unacceptable to raise children in what's right? And this goes against the idea of educating and training and raising people up in what is right. All societies are based around the concept of common good and what is right. And it is not, the surveys are not very reliable. It'd be interesting to know how many children growing up as children of homosexuals hold to the traditional family and reject and oppose homosexuality. So that is, they may not know, they may not, they would be what one might call amoral, but not affirming what is moral. And it's only a matter of time before people who follow an unright path will be offended by what is right. And as I said, perhaps said before, society can always tolerate a certain degree of destruction and social breakdown, but if that exceeds a certain level, then things will go past the point where that basic underlying heritage is destroyed. And no one should I suppose people should consider the foundational inheritance of American society. Much of the changes in the last 50 years have been based on an erroneous view of mechanical atheistic evolution. And this is now known to be erroneous. And it's time to go back and repair the damage that's been propagated by that erroneous doctrine, and some work of repair is being done in that regards. So social policy has been astray for a while now. It's time to get back. Thank you.